The first Republican presidential debate is in Milwaukee tonight. 8 candidates, including former Vice President Mike Pence, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy, will be on the debate stage. However, the leading contender for the Republican nomination for president, Donald Trump, will not be there. The former president said he'll post a pre-recorded interview with former Fox host Tucker Carlson as a form of alternative programming. Some of Donald Trump's co-defendants in the election interference case in Georgia began turning themselves in yesterday, while others tried to get the sprawling criminal case moved out of state court and into federal court. Jeffrey Clark, a former Justice Department official, and David Schaefer, the former head of the Georgia Republican Party, each filed motions asking to have their cases moved to federal court, just as Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, did last week. Those motions lay the groundwork for what will be the first major legal fight in the case, which was filed in Superior Court in Atlanta last week. An employee of former President Donald Trump changed his grand jury testimony in the documents case. This is the handling of classified documents case filed in a federal court in Florida after the Justice Department raised questions about whether his lawyer had a conflict of interest in representing both the employee and a defendant in the case. After the employee changed lawyers and hired one of the public defenders made available to him, he all of a sudden realized, or at least had a recollection, that he had discussed moving documents with regards to the case brought by special counsel Jack Smith. Nearly 150 million Americans were under heat alerts yesterday after July marked the planet's hottest month on record. Devastating downpours dumped 2 months of rain on Vermont in 2 days. Smoke from Canadian wildfires choked East Coast skies, causing the worst air quality on record for many areas. Yet, while there is wide public concern over extreme weather, Americans are deeply divided along partisan lines on whether climate change is helping to drive these events. Newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy is taking flack ahead of the Republican debate tonight. His opponents are increasingly calling him out for inconsistencies in his comments on topics such as masking during the pandemic and when he first voted. They're also calling him out for his polarizing arguments about potentially phasing out U.S. financial aid to Israel after 2028, and for ideas he has floated about the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks that have been embraced by conspiracy theorists. The 15-month-old gang case against Young Thug, which, like the Trump case, is being prosecuted by Fonnie T. Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, offers glimpses of how the state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump et al. May unfold, with a plodding pace, an avalanche of pretrial defense motions, extraordinary security measures, pressure on lower-level defendants to plead guilty, and a fracturing into separate trials, just to name a few of the obstacles. The case against Young Thug has not moved past the jury selection phase, which has already taken 6 months. Former Democratic Congresswoman Debbie McCarso-Powell launched a campaign yesterday in Florida to challenge Senator Rick Scott, the Republican and former governor who is seeking re-election in 2024, to his second term. In a campaign video posted titled "Do Something About It," McCarso-Powell cast Scott as someone who would support a national abortion plan, threaten Social Security and Medicare, and raise taxes on lower-income Americans. The American Alliance for Equal Rights, now this is a group which led the campaign against affirmative action in college admissions. They filed a lawsuit yesterday against two of the nation's largest law firms, alleging that the law firms' diversity fellowships excluded applicants based on their race. They demanded that both of these programs be shut down immediately. More women, this is a good statistic, than men have college degrees. And this is good news for Democrats, as college students head to campuses over the next month, there will be more women than men in lecture halls, a trend that is reshaping this country and our politics. In 2020, voters with college degrees are more voted for Joe Biden by 12 points, according to exit polls. And voters without degrees selected Donald Trump. Although it was a narrow selection, in the last decade, women surpassed men in college completion. And the South Carolina Supreme Court upheld the state's near total ban on abortion by a 4-1 vote, reversing a decision it had made in January that struck down a similar ban and declared that the state constitution's protections for privacy included a right to abortion. Now, the decision in January was written by the court's only female justice. She retired, and South Carolina now has the nation's only all-male high court. You're listening and watching Areva Martin in real time, and I am your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by two of our regular contributors, Katrina Robinson. She is a consultant and former Tennessee State Senator. Also, Chris Walton, he's joining us. He is a former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County and a Democratic strategist. And in hour two, that's the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind the headlines and we break down some of the biggest stories of the day, those stories that make big headlines, as well as those stories that have big impact. And today, the biggest story in the news is the Republican presidential debate. Yes, the first debate for Republicans vying to become the next president of the United States, or at least vying to receive the nomination from the GOP. What's going to be significant, amongst other things tonight, is the fact that Donald Trump, who is leading the entire pack of candidates running, will not, I repeat, will not be on the stage. He is in a battle with the Murdochs that own Fox News, where the debate is going to be aired. And he's trying to punish them, trying to send them a message that they cannot garner the million plus views and ratings if he's not on the stage. He's engaged in some alternative programming where he did a pre-recorded interview with one of the former Fox hosts, Tucker Carlson. In hour two, we have two of the nation's leading Democratic strategists joining me to help us break down what to look for in tonight's debate, who is likely to emerge as a winner and a possible alternative to Donald Trump, and also going to be looking at what exaggerations and misstatements and disinformation is likely to be articulated on that debate stage tonight. So make sure you stick around for hour two so we can give you a blow-by-blow in terms of how to watch and analyze the Republican presidential debate tonight. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I don't know if you have noticed or even can believe this, but the March on Washington, the historic March on Washington, is celebrating its 60th anniversary this weekend. Now, the 1963 March was pivotal for the civil rights movement. And this week, a coalition of civil rights activists and advocates are heading to D.C. to really stand up for justice and to renew the fight for equality. Decades later, an event to mark the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington has been themed not a commemoration, a continuation. So the organizers and leaders of this event this weekend really want to emphasize that they're not so much commemorating the march as they are reminding the country that the fight for equity, the fight for social justice, the fight for civil rights is continuing. The 1963 demonstration centered around civil rights, jobs, and economic opportunities. The organizers say that the Saturday event will also address a range of issues, including threats to our democracy, the criminal justice system, and reform of that system, as well as voting rights. Martin Luther King III, the eldest son of the civil rights icon, Dr. Martin Luther King and his wife, who is an iconic civil rights leader in her own right, Coretta Scott King, Martin King III said, despite the significant progress we have made, we need to rededicate ourselves to the mission my dad gave his life for. He went on to say, we have to do better. This anniversary gives us the opportunity to not just commemorate Dr. King's historic calling, but to continue his efforts to make life better for everyone. At that march this weekend, you can expect to see Martin Luther King III and his wife, as well as the Drum Major Institute. That's a think tank based on Dr. King's principles. They are some of the organizations that are organizing this march, along with Reverend Al Sharpton, who's the president of the National Action Network, and over 100 partners. So I just want to give a shout out to Martin Luther King III, his wife, Dr. Al Sharpton, the 100 plus partners, and all of those individuals who are organizing, planning, and making sure that this 60th anniversary of the March on Washington is not, does not go unnoticed, because we all know that the struggles of Black and Brown Americans, particularly women, Black women, those struggles that we faced 60 years ago are in many ways still very, very present and prevalent today. And Dr. King called on us, all of us, to work to eradicate what he called the triple evils of racism, poverty, and violence. He called on us to all stand for peace, justice, and equity. And so as we think about the vision, the dream, and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King on this 60th anniversary, let's not forget what he asked all of us to do, not to give our lives in the way that he did, but to stand up for peace, to stand up for justice, and to stand up for equity. When we come forward, more of today's trending news with my expert contributors on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm young, gifted, and black. KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of Black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of Black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring Black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for Black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of Black audiences are concerned about the lack of Black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the Black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% Black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black. Your Black. Your Black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
We are back, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. In this hour, we are tracking today's trending news with my expert contributors, and in hour 2 today, we are going to be breaking down what you can expect to see and how to analyze the first Republican presidential debate. In this hour, Katrina Robinson is back with us, as well as Chris Walton. Katrina, you formerly were an elected official in the state of Tennessee, and you had to deal with this issue of abortion bans. We now have news today that just months after the exit of its sole female justice, South Carolina State Supreme Court upheld restrictions that would ban most abortions around 6 weeks of pregnancy. This decision brings an end to the brief relief abortion rights advocates found in January when its only female judge on that court wrote a majority opinion striking down a 6-week ban tied to a piece of legislation. She argued in her opinion that the ban violated the state's constitutional right to privacy. The minute this woman, justice, who faced mandatory retirement, the minute she was gone, replaced with a man, and now all of a sudden a decision entered in January has been reversed and a ban has been upheld by this court. What do you make of this debate that's taking place in South Carolina, and how does it compare with debates that you had when you were in the Tennessee state legislature?
Well, this debate is a long-standing debate. Some of the arguments that we had in Tennessee started in 2019 around the fetal heartbeat bill, which is basically the same language that you'll see in the legislation that was passed in South Carolina, only now they're calling it cardiac activity. I just find it very ironic that this is happening now with the only all-male Supreme Court in the entire United States. I think it questions the integrity of the court for the everyday citizen. How can we depend on them to make the utmost decision in any matter when they're double-sided in their thinking as to whether or not this is going to be have any legal repercussions for the state? But I think they're in a predicament where they're going to be open to a lot of lawsuits, particularly from those organizations that provide these type of healthcare services, as well as the citizens of South Carolina.
Yeah, we know, Chris, that not all men think like these male judges on this particular court, but it is really disgusting, I would say, and really painful as a woman to have a decision about your body autonomy, about your reproductive health, about your health care decided by an all-male panel, and for that panel to reverse a decision that was made by this very same court just months ago when there was a female sitting on the court. I don't want to put you in a position of trying to defend the bros on that court, but I am going to do that. So what's up with these men waiting for the woman to reach mandatory retirement and then reverse a decision that, you know, she made while there that respected the bodily autonomy that women should have in this country?
I'm not jumping in that. Nope. They could take that hit by themselves. I am pro-choice. I do not, under any circumstance. You know what? Honestly, I got my stance on reproductive rights from Tupac. A man cannot create one, therefore he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one.
All right, Tupac, I love it. Okay. Well, let me ask you this as a Democratic strategist.
Right.
Why are Republicans continuing to enact and support these very restrictive abortion laws when the general public has spoken on this issue, has made it obvious, has made it as clear as can be that this is not a winning issue for Republicans, that overwhelmingly, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, people believe that there should be access to abortion. So why are Republicans continuing to hang their hats on these very restrictive abortion laws?
Well, they've been doing it now for 50 years. They've been fighting the right to an abortion since the right to an abortion was actually put in place. This is just the textbook that the Republican Party has been utilizing since the beginning. I, for one, I'm sticking by it on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm enjoying it politically, watching them basically destroy themselves and run themselves off a cliff. Because one thing you don't do is upset the women of America. And that's what they've done. And as we've seen time and again in elections in states like Kansas, in Ohio, in Kentucky, whenever these things come to a vote, the reproductive rights win because everybody wants to have their own reproductive rights. And it's just, hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm not in a position to tell them what to do to save their party, and I don't want to tell them what to do to save their party. Hopefully they will figure it out at some point, but I think we'll see tonight here in Milwaukee that they haven't, and I'm looking forward to watching them all fall over themselves to destroy themselves.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the debates a little, but I want to highlight a really important point that you just made and kind of piggyback on it, which is you don't want to upset the female voters in this country. This new poll out that shows that women are gaining college degrees at a greater rate than men, and that women, when they become college educated, are trending towards voting Democratic, means that as more women continue to outpace men with college degrees and continue to vote overwhelmingly Democratic, where do the Republicans go, Katrina? I mean, they have lost white educated women. They've lost clearly Black women, educated, non-educated. They can't be in power based on white, non-educated men, which has been the majority of their base, because the women are outpacing the men, and we're voting in large numbers, and we're voting on issues like reproductive health. We're voting on issues, voting rights and gun control, and, issues about schools and economics. So where are the Republicans going if they're not trying to steal the election, if they're trying to win it fair and square? Where do they go?
To me, it looks like they're going to hell if they don't pray. But what's happening is these girls, they're leaving home, they're going to college, they're getting educated on the issues, they're no longer under their family's thumb. They see the reality of what happens in America on a day-to-day basis when Republicans are infringing upon their reproductive rights, when they don't feel safe on their campuses from gun violence. They're starting to see the real world, and that's how they seemingly convert and go to the Democratic side most times. I think the Republican Party has lost touch with their base, as you were saying about the abortion laws. That is a long outdated issue for the Republican Party, but they're still harping on it based on the Christian ideology that they basically hang their hat on in every legislature. So I think it's the same thing with the women. Women are starting to see that this is not the party for me. This is not who aligns with my values as a woman, and this is not who's going to provide the most opportunity for me to create a family that I can be proud of, to be able to live comfortably in this country. They're starting to see that as they grow and develop in their careers. I mean, women voters in 2020 with college degrees, they voted for Biden by 12 points. That's a pretty significant spread. And so you're going to see a lot of that happen, especially as we're pushing Donald Trump as the Republican nominee. Someone who's educated doesn't make sense to them.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because one thing you said is really, really critical is that these women may grow up in a household that is overwhelmingly Republican. They may sit around their dinner table and hear their parents talk about Republican, candidates, and may go to the polls with their parents as they vote and see them vote for Republican candidates. They may even watch Fox TV, every day when they come home from school. But these women, young women, leave home. they go to college campuses where they get exposed to other people. They get exposed to other issues. And that's where we're seeing, obviously, by this study and this poll, that these women are converting. They're not willing to continue to, model what they may have seen in their households. They're not willing to vote in the way that their parents voted. And that's a real issue, particularly as Gen Z and millennials overtake baby boomers. So you're going to have more voters who are Gen Z and millennials voting in future elections than you have baby boomers. So you're going to have that age difference, you're going to have gender difference, you're going to have education difference. So I don't know where this party goes. It's been so exclusive rather than inclusive of women, of minorities, and of people who, have different ideologies. So it's never been a big tent party like the Democrats. So they've got a lot of work to do to figure out where there is growth, which is what's so encouraging about the Democratic Party. We have lots of ways that we can continue to grow our party. When we come back,
I think
hold that thought for me. Hold that thought. We got to take some news and traffic. And when we come forward, we're going to talk about the big debate tonight in Milwaukee, talk about those 18 defendants who've been turning themselves in, facing the indictment of Fonnie Willis in the Fulton County courthouse, and what this means for the debate tonight. Might this overshadow anybody's on that debate stage's attempt to talk about policy issues? Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rep spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search. We are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We are back, and in this hour, we are tracking today's trending news with my expert contributors, Chris Walton and Katrina Robinson. And in hour two, we are going to break down for you what to look for and how to analyze tonight's big Republican debate. 8 candidates who would like to replace Donald Trump as the front runner for the GOP nomination for president will be on a debate stage in Milwaukee. It will be aired on Fox and across streaming platforms that are operated by Fox. And Chris, I'm glad you're here today because you are in Milwaukee. You are the former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee. What is the the temperature like in Milwaukee? What's the vibe, given that the big debate, the first GOP debate, is happening right there in your city?
Well, currently, thanks to climate change, it's officially over 100 degrees here in the city of Milwaukee at the moment.
Wow.
For the 34th time in history. So as you can tell, we can actually count it. That's how often it happens. And we're feeling it. But, it's really interesting to see. We love to see the attention. We love to see the money being spent here in the community. We wish them no success, but we want them to come and spend and waste as much money as they can in the city of Milwaukee, because in the end, Wisconsin's going to go blue again, thanks to the people of the city of Milwaukee.
Is there a buzz, though? Sometimes when there are big political events, it almost feels like it's a big sporting event, like it could be the Super Bowl or, an NBA All-Star game. Is it that kind of excitement in the city today?
It's hot, so we all, it's the Midwest, so we ain't really trying to be outside right now. This is a little hot for us, but there's some excitement going on in town. There's some excitement. It's always fun when new people come in to spend money in the city. So hopefully the businesses and the bars nearby are taking for everything they got.
Well, the heat you were talking about, I was talking to our producer, Rashad, who's in Chicago, who said they are under some kind of heat advisory. And, I reported earlier, 150 million Americans were under heat alerts yesterday. And July was the hottest month on record, marked the planet's hottest month. And there are debates, as you know, about whether there is climate change or not. And that debate is breaking down along partisan lines. So there's not, some unanimous agreement about, one, is there climate change? And two, are humans somehow responsible for it, which makes it difficult to try to attack, right? Or to try to, investigate, to bring science to the proposition. If you can't even get lawmakers to agree that there is climate change, or that there is a reason why on Sunday, Los Angeles was on watch for Hurricane Hillary. And in all the, years that I've lived in Los Angeles, we've always had earthquakes, we've had mudslides, but tornadoes and hurricanes are new. Grew up in the Midwest, lived in the Midwest for college. And lived on the East Coast. So very accustomed to those kinds of weather conditions, but not in Los Angeles. So I'm with you, Chris. Something is happening to our Earth, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. There's definitely something. And hopefully in the 2024 election, we'll get candidates talking about it. That's something I hope comes up tonight is climate change. They're going to be in this hot city you just said. So these 8 candidates, hopefully that will be one of the conversations or one of the talking points, one of the questions. Let me ask you, Katrina, you are in the South, and I saw Debbie McCarcel-Powell last night on television. She is this 52-year-old, I think she's from Ecuador, Ecuadorian woman, immigrant, came to the country when she was 13, has been a congresswoman for Florida, and seemingly is a dynamic, from what I saw, very dynamic candidate. She is polling right now, neck and neck with Senator Rick Scott, the Republican from Florida, who's also the governor. And I couldn't help but think about Val Demings. Val Demings ran against, Rubio and raised, $80 million or so, and still came up short. But you can't win if you don't run. So first of all, kudos to Debbie for putting her name in the hat and jumping into this arena. But how are you feeling about a Democrat, particularly a female, a woman of color, beating someone like Rick Scott in Florida?
Well, I would be happy to see it. Unfortunately, a Democratic presidential or Senate candidate has not won Florida since Barack Obama carried the state in 2012. But she would be actually the second Latina to be elected to that position. I think she's trying to hope to galvanize the Hispanic community. Traditionally the Hispanic community was Democratic, and they've leaned more Republican lately. So it's kind of a toss-up as to who she can galvanize. But I think she has an opportunity to do this. She's done it before for her congressional seat. She won in 2018 by unseating a Republican. But unfortunately, with Trump carrying the ticket in Florida in 2020, she lost that seat. But I think she can do it again.
And Chris, so always the question for the Dem Party is, how much money do they invest? What kinds of resources do they deploy in states like Florida? What are you thinking about where the national party is? Is this going to be a high priority race, or, has the party written Florida off?
I don't believe we've written Florida off. I know the president's campaign is already advertising down in Florida. The president's campaign has already made it clear that they're still going to contest Florida. But they're also looking at other targets like Texas. They're also looking at other targets like North Carolina. And we also have to defend states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona. So we're going to run a full national campaign. And that's one thing that this president has done, because he's been able to expand the map from 2016, where we rebuilt the blue wall, and also went into Georgia, went into Arizona, created a new blue wall out west. And we're going to continue doing that. And I think that's something that we're going to see. There's a difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is about subtraction. They're about, this is all what we have, and only this is what we have, and this is where we're going to take. We're going to take more of your rights away. We're going to take money from your funding in your schools. We have to stop the MAGA Republicans. But one thing we can always count on with the Democratic Party is addition. We want to bring more people into voting. We want to bring more people get them more rights, reinstate rights that Republicans have taken away from them. And so, we're looking at a situation right now, tonight here in Milwaukee, where they're going to be arguing about what rights they want to take away from us, while President Biden and Vice President Harris are going to be fighting about the rights they want to return to us and expand beyond that.
Yeah, that's a big difference in the parties. When people say all politicians are alike, that statement is wrong on so many levels, but I think you just said it very well in terms of how we can sum up today's Republican Party versus the Democratic Party. And maybe that's true for the Republicans, except they're so hypocritical. When it's rights they care about, then they want, to add those rights. When it's rights they don't care about, of course, they want to, as you said, subtract those rights. What do you think, though, Katrina? This debate is happening. These candidates want to talk about the issues. But today, yesterday, tomorrow, Thursday in particular, Donald Trump is going to turn himself in. There's going to be this historic event happening in Fulton County, Georgia tomorrow, where a former president of the United States, who is now twice impeached and 4 times indicted, has 91 criminal charges filed against him, is going to show up in a county jail. I mean, the enormity of what is happening tomorrow is so great. Do you think it's going to carry the news day? And basically, whatever these cast of 8 say tonight, everybody will have forgotten by noon tomorrow.
I think that's been part of the problem with these Republican campaigns is Trump has overshadowed everything. You can't get any news if it's not about Donald Trump. So this is going to be a hallmark day tomorrow in the news. I mean, I saw Rudy Giuliani's mugshot today in Fulton County Jail, and I was just floored. But I think whatever they say tonight, they've got to make some strong messages to differentiate themselves. There's not really a lot of opportunity to do that. DeSantis has got to save his face, but I think Trump is going to overshadow everything that's said tonight.
Yeah, that's I can't imagine that when we turn on television tomorrow or go to our social media, there's going to be anything that's trending other than, as you said, Rudy Giuliani today, tomorrow, Donald Trump. So it's going to be interesting to see how these candidates try to make their mark so that they get some clip, something that goes viral, something that someone remembers. When we come forward, we're going to talk about Young Thug and the similarities in the RICO charges against him and members of what Fonnie Willis says was a street gang, and the charges against Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The 3 people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the
On August 14th, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis announced the state of Georgia's 41-count indictment against former President Trump and 18 others for allegedly attempting to overthrow the 2020 election. Trump, who's also facing 3 other indictments in New York and D.C. and Florida, is the highest profile person ever to be tried by Fulton County. Now, this is right in front of rapper Young Thug, aka Jeffrey Williams, who's accused of being a gang shot caller in the 65-count YSL case. Now, both of these indictments outline winding and sprawling racketeering and conspiracy involving multiple defendants. And both of these men at the center of these indictments have denied the charges. Either trial could be regarded as a once-in-a-career operation, and Fulton County is literally taking on both of these high-profile trials at the same time. And talk about a historic day tomorrow, Chris. Not only will it be historic when Donald Trump turns himself into this Fulton County jail, but there are comparisons being made between a former president and a rapper who, according to Fani Willis, is the head of a notorious street gang that was involved in murdering folks and drug dealing and trafficking of, just every imaginable street crime that you can think of. That's what Young Thug and this, this gang that he's supposed to be the head of has been charged with, and we're comparing it to Donald Trump. That's kind of surreal.
History of hip hop.
Yeah, okay, but
it's a mess. This is just goes to show, just the level of just, I don't even know where to go with that. It's really like, what level of, where are we at right now where the president of the United States, Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor of New York City during 9/11, a former USDA, it got caught with a RICO charge. Donald Trump is getting a RICO charge. Like, where are we? What universe is this now where this is happening? But this is what happens when you don't take elections seriously. Every single election has to be taken seriously. And this is a prime example of why.
You keep mentioning Rudy, and I think that's so important because it's not only Rudy, it's like 6 lawyers that are ensnarled in this indictment. And as someone who went to law school, passed the bar, lawyers, many will tell you they'd rather die than give up their right to practice law. That, the 7 years that they've worked to get to this point where they can sit for a bar exam, and the grueling nature of becoming a lawyer is such that, it's something that people cherish. But yet these folks, these lawyers, got so wrapped up in their Trump identity that they forgot about their own professional identity, their livelihood, their reputation. And, what are you thinking, Katrina, in this moment that we are literally comparing a former president who wants to be the president again to, and I don't know, Young Thug, I don't know if he did what Fonnie Willis has charged him with, but he is facing a very serious RICO case for some very serious crimes. And even the notion that we're speaking their names in the same sentence and they're appearing in the same courthouse. I just wonder how come that's not resonating with some of Trump's base, not the cult, not the folks who have bought in and who are more, attached to the cult of Trump, but some of those educated women that we talked about, some of those folks who have been around politics for a long time. Do you really want a president who's, facing a trial in a courthouse next to a rapper who's been accused of murder and drug dealing?
Well, I would say that the party rejects that comparison, even though President Trump is more of a gangster than Young Thug probably will ever be. But it's funny, the similarities in the case, of course, with all the indicted co-conspirators. I mean, Young Thug, I think he had 28 people, is now down to 8 because they pled out. His jury's been hung up for 6 months. It's just going through the whole process. And I think some of the similarities, I think they were trying to say that they were using Young Thug's lyrics as part of the evidence in the trial, and they wanted to exclude that as part of his First Amendment rights. And then they were saying that they were going to use the same argument for Trump's tweets and his call to the Secretary of State, which is crazy to me because this is literally somebody who is spewing irrelevant information as a way to conspire and substantiate falsely some of the events that he said occurred in the election. It's two totally different things. I mean, rap is considered an art form. My son writes rap music. He's never lived it a day in his life. Nobody would ever believe he ate ramen noodles when he was a kid because it's not true. But the thing is, that's what they do for a living. And I just don't understand how we can akin that to what President Trump has done in this whole criminal conspiracy.
So it's interesting that you say that Trump and his sycophants would reject the comparison, but I can bet you that you are going to start to see, as you just alluded to, arguments by the Trump team that track very closely to arguments made in the Young Thug case about First Amendment rights in terms of tweets and other, statements that are made. And as you have just said, someone writing a song 5 years ago, exaggerating to get street cred is far different from engaging in conduct which is in furtherance of your efforts to subvert democracy or overthrow a legitimate election. I don't think those First Amendment arguments are going anywhere with respect to Donald Trump's defense. I don't think Mark Meadows' arguments that somehow his conduct is immune from prosecution because he was acting as an official of the government since he was the chief of staff for the president. Obviously, nobody is immune from prosecution when your actions become criminal. So even if there was some kind of protection for those actions done in the regular course and scope of your business or your employment, once you step outside and you're committing criminal acts, then you lose all of that protection. Real quickly, Chris, I want to ask you, the conservative lawyer activist who recruited Asian students and convinced them that somehow they weren't getting their fair shake at Ivy League institutions and private institutions like Harvard. And so therefore you need to file a lawsuit and challenge affirmative actions in admissions policy, has now decided to go after the nation's largest law firms because they offer diversity scholarships, because they say to minority lawyers at Howard and those at Harvard and Yale and other places, we need more minority lawyers working for us. And to attract the few Black lawyers, brown lawyers in these law schools, we're going to give you some added incentive. We're going to give you a diversity scholarship. The American Alliance for Equal Rights says, oh, no, that's discrimination. And you can't exclude anyone on the basis of race. And you can't single out these Black and brown law students or law graduates and give them this scholarship or this diversity, access to your firm. I see this as the floodgates, as the attempt by this group to eradicate every program in every institution, every private corporation, every nonprofit, every public organization in this country, to basically eliminate any DEI programs as we know it.
Yes, that's exactly what this is. This is the next step The first step was getting rid of affirmative action in education. The next step is going after private businesses and telling them, no, you can't hire these people, because for some apparent reason, Black people just don't happen to be able to actually get jobs without an assistance. Well, they don't happen to be able to get in school without assistance. I guess we just don't have the capabilities to do these things, which is completely false. There's a strand of thought that is running through America right now that Black people are somehow going to be forced back into farmhand jobs on plantations. But I can get one thing straight right here, right now. We're not going back, and we will continue to fight. And luckily, we already have some pretty amazing lawyers already ready to go and fight. And so I look forward to them going and getting hammered. If they're already going after some of the biggest law firms in America, I'm sure they're going to make sure that they're going to fight and show why they earn that name.
Yeah, I was talking to some Black media companies yesterday that shared how there had been millions, as we know, of dollars that were pledged after George Floyd to support Black-owned businesses, including Black-owned media companies. And one of these company representatives told me that all of those pledges were reneged on, and that that a lot of Black media companies are now struggling as a result, and that this is the backlash. So this lawsuit and lawsuits like this are totally a backlash to that really brief window when Black folks mattered and folks were interested in what was happening in Black America and were pledging to try to eliminate systemic racism that exists and is so pervasive in this country. So we're going to watch this lawsuit. Obviously, as you say, we're going to see these lawsuits happening all over the country with all kinds of businesses. And you are right. There are lots of really smart, really prepared lawyers ready to fight and to push back on this notion that somehow diversity is not good for the entire country. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Katrina. Always a pleasure to have both of you on the program. I'm a lot smarter when I spend an hour with you. When we come forward, we're going to break down this GOP presidential debate that's happening tonight in Milwaukee. I hate to say it, but you can turn on Fox News and check it out. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Pick up the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.